Hey guys, here to bring you the latest chapter of Bleach, chapter 532. Um, so, I mean, first of all, I'm up and down about Bleach. It has really good entertaining factors, but it's kind of like the stuff in between kind of isn't as interesting. It has peaks of interest, but when it's not as interesting. It really falls, and it's usually very fast. You can cover a Bleach chapter in a few minutes, if that. Um, but to start us off, I mean, one of the first things that happens in this chapter is it's kind of a continuation of last chapter, which is the kind of Aizen striking Ishin in the back. And Ishin, he's very clever, despite Aizen being cloaked, being invisible. Um, he still can perceive that the strike um, was that of a Zanpakuto, which means that obviously a Shinigami or something like a Shinigami, because Espada come later on. So, you know, he definitely can tell that it was a sword, and he pretty much calls them out. He's like, "Bitch, where are you?" And then they're like, "Oh, let's not get involved. Let's just go away," because that strike alone has disabled his ability to summon his Bankai, which I gotta admit I find a bit annoying because maybe Kubo hasn't figured out what his Bankai is, because there's a lot of times where I'm like, why don't the captain class people use their Bankai in situations where they really need to use it? And there's always some reason why they can't use it, and I just think that at this point he pretty much says they have a Bankai, but he himself might not know what it is. Um, and later on, when I get to the fight itself, Engetsu, I mean, Aizen mentioned something about this hollow, this whitey, this white one, or white noise, or whatever you want to call him. Um, I'm just going to call him White One, or Hichigo, or Hollow Ichigo. And he says it's a guinea pig. It's the first one they've used as a Shinigami as a base. I find this really interesting because if you think back to the very early chapters where uh, Ichigo gains mastery or proper control over his Shikai, and Hollow Ichigo comes out of nowhere, I think the process might be echoing the creation of this first pre-Espada visored like creature, because from what we can tell, he's been using hollows so far, but now he's doing the reverse. He's using Shinigami to try and fuse the two abilities together. The way in which it looks, and that it's all black, but it's got a pure nature about it, which means it's got that Shinigami black. The Shinigami usually have this black kind of cloak, and the captains might have these white cloaks on top. But I remember it being said that Ichigo's Bankai form, his kimono, his Hiyori, it kind of reflects how much Reiatsu he has and the type of Reiatsu he has. So the fact that it's all black may be indicative to a Shinigami Reiatsu, but he has a pure hollow Reiatsu inside. So I found that really interesting. Now moving on to the fight itself, this fight was pretty good. I like the fact that there's this kind of panel where Hollow Ichigo is gonna try and upper slice Ishin, but Ishin stamps on the blade. That was pretty cool and badass. He's trying to use Engetsu, and he realizes he can't use Bankai. And the thing is, I don't really understand what Engetsu does. He never shouts out an attack. He never says anything. It becomes this kind of... It looks horizontal, but the way he's holding the blade is kind of... It's actually more vertical, going along the line of the blade and the handle. And I don't know what it actually does. I mean, these are hollows, and this one's kind of like a Vastolorde, isn't it? So he should be immune to burns to an extent. The hero, I think it's called, which is this kind of, it makes them really tough. You know, the Ulquiorra and Nanoitra could catch blades and take attacks and deflect them with their bare hands. So, which I'll come to later, actually, at the end of this fight. Now, Masaki comes in and she's analyzing the hollow, which is very interesting because instead of just rushing in there and shooting it down, it seems like she can understand more about the hollow the more she watches it fight. And she's kind of judging what, you know, you can tell by her eyes she's judging what its weaknesses are, where best to hit it, and how it fights. And what happens is she takes a shot at the at Hichiga, the white one, just as it's about to use a Sero on Ishin, and it changes its course and it goes for her, which I'm kind of confused about, because I think it was stated before, like a chapter before, or was it 2 chapters before, that this hollow isn't going out for any particular Reiatsu, it's going out for any Reiatsu it can find. Does that mean she has a more powerful Reiatsu, or a particular type of Reiatsu that he likes in particular? Because at the end of the fight, he goes to kind of eat her, which I find very odd. He's never done that during the fight so far. He's just been using his blades. She offers him her arm, and he doesn't cut it off. He goes to bite it, which again I find really weird. Maybe she understood that this hollow would try to eat her, mainly probably because she seemed more human than she did Shinigami. I don't even think this thing would be able to tell the difference between a Shinigami or a Quincy, but I think the Reiatsu would, maybe the difference in Reiatsu may want him to eat her. I'm not sure. But the end of this fight, even though it was cool, I mean, the thing is, the hollow, it's a Vastolorde, and she takes this really small kind of Quincy bow and arrow shot, almost like a gun. And it took an end gets to blow off his arm, and I just don't understand how this thing is so powerful. It's so small, yet it's so powerful that it can just blow a hole through his head. I mean, it was point blank, yeah, but this is, considering the Reiatsu for hollows, the stronger the Reiatsu, seemingly, well, not necessarily, their Espada are a bit different, but the stronger or more condensed their Reiatsu, the tougher they are. I just don't understand the power scaling, or maybe it's penetrative force of the Quincy arrow. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe it's the Reiatsu mechanics of it all. Maybe Quincy... Quincy's are kind of the best for hunting down hollows. You know, Shinigami just kind of had to fend them off. But in terms of hunting down hollows, you know, it was really the Quincy's, which was the main problem for everyone during the Hukumundo arc with Ishida. Because they were like, well, why isn't he getting involved? He's doing some things, but you'd think he'd be really helpful, like really effective against the Espada, but I guess because the Espada had Shinigami-like qualities, it was harder for him. But yeah, so the final thing is the hollow dead? Because hollows can survive some extreme wounds. I mean, Shinigami like Matsumoto, Hinamori, they all can take really extremely dangerous wounds that would kill you and me, and keep going. And I don't know. I mean, I think the hollow might not be dead. I think he might run off and might come back. Who knows? But at the very least, we can assume some of its Reiatsu has been imprinted onto Masaki. But wouldn't she be able to detect that? Wouldn't someone be able to detect, hey, you've got his Reiatsu on you? And wouldn't she be able to cleanse her of cleanse herself of that. I mean, yeah, I mean, why does it make such a huge imprint? Because she's not. It doesn't have Quincy powers. It only has Shinigami to an extent and Hollow powers. Maybe that it lays dormant. The Shinigami side lays dormant inside of her until Ishin pretty much bangs her, and then it reawakens in their children, or at least in their first child, Ichigo. So yeah, that's me for this week's chapter of Bleach 552. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this has brought up some questions in your mind. Um, and I hope you can give me some answers to some of the questions I've asked in this review. So until then, I'll see you later.